It all began with a knock on my ranch gate, the kind you remember mostly because a clipboard slammed into my surveillance camera after it. Karen Cho, a platinum bob truck with red lipstick and a snarl that could sour milk, squinted through the bars as if she owned the place. She pointed to my 100-acre ranch as if it were a suburban front yard and said, "This area is not up to HOA code." I gently informed her that the HOA didn't own dirt out here, let alone my land, and she replied, "We'll see about that." I dismissed it until 2 days later when I returned from a feed run and discovered my gate wide open, my horses in a panic, my chickens squawking like the end of the world, and my front door cracked. I pulled out my phone, checked my cameras, and there she was, Karen, snooping around my barn like she was on a National Geographic expedition. She had gloves on, a flashlight, and the most ridiculously cunning walk I've ever seen for a brief moment. I assumed she was high, but she was actually just HOA level entitled. What Karen didn't realize was that, as she was running around my property like a knockoff Indiana Jones, someone else had caught her scent. Bear, my German shepherd, was an XP police K9 who was retired but still had the soul of a predator. I had rescued him 2 years prior after he busted a drug ring in Texas, and he treats trespassing like a sport. Bear came crawling in silently as a shadow, without barking or growling, just pure instinct. She reached for my spice rack, of all things, and when she heard the low rumble, she froze slowly. Turning around, he stood there with all 95 pounds of sleek fur and authority teeth and a slightly bared tail. Karen screamed like a kettle bolted toward the back door, slipped on a floor mat, and went straight into my pantry shelf cans. The bear stood over her, not biting, but barking loudly enough to shake the window frames. At that point, the camera in the corner began to record every second as Karen attempted to army crawl out of the sea of canned tomatoes and beans, smeared like she had just been baptized in chili. Bear stayed close, barking precisely enough to make her flinch with every breath, but not enough to bite. That dog had restraint I could only imagine. I was parked just outside watching everything unfold on my phone, sipping a cold one as if it were pay-per-view. And then I casually stepped through the back door, the camera still rolling well, if it wasn't the HOA self-declared FBI. Karen was still face-deep in pinto beans when I said, "I thought someone was in danger," as she gasped and stammered, confused. I laughed, and indeed, Bear believed you were the threat. She attempted to stand, but Bear grew once and froze like a cartoon. I told him to heel, and he retreated, tail wagging proudly as ever. Karen looked up at me as if I owed her a lifeline. I raised an eyebrow and remarked, "You're going to be in serious trouble for this." She said, "You're going to be in serious trouble for what you did by trespassing, breaking and entering, hurting livestock, and leaving your HOA fingerprints all over my spice rack." She had tomato pulp in her hair. Her tone changed from shocked to arrogant at that point. "You signed a clause saying that this land is technically under oversight whether you like it or not." I blinked, and then, while doing some heavy lifting, I went to my drawer and took out the document, which was laminated and notarized. I threw it at her feet and read the small print at the bottom. She squinted, her face collapsing with each word. "This land is zoned agricultural and exempt from HOA control." She stopped reading, and I smiled. "I'm the loophole your HOA hates," she said. She scurried to her feet, took out her phone, and began calling someone, most likely her lawyer, her Holackies or the gossip chain. "You're done," she said. "This is harassment. Your dog is a menace. I'm going to sue." "Good luck with that. You might want to get the canned beans out of your ears before you testify," I said, leaning on the counter. Then the cherry bear approached and urinated directly on her high-end purse. Karen shrieked and remained motionless as she watched her pricey handbag absorb a new wave of guard dog punishment. She screamed, snatched up the bag like it was a newborn, and yelled, "This is a Louis Vuitton, you savage." The bear wagged his tail as if he had just won a trophy. I raised my eyebrows. "Did Louis design it to hold dog pee? Because that's a nice added feature." She screamed once more and stormed out the door, but not before tripping over a horse feed trail and falling straight into my flower bed, which was covered in roses, thorns, and you can imagine the rest. I decided not to help her up and instead calmly downloaded the footage of her break-in, which was now backed up to a cloud server, 2 flash drives, and my private lawyer's email. As if she were auditioning for a courtroom drama, Karen scurried to her feet, covered in dirt and tomato paste, and yelled legal threats. "You'll hear from my attorney that I have power in this neighborhood," she said. "But this isn't a neighborhood. It's a ranch, and there are more cows than humans out here. The only thing you have control over is your own delusion." She stomped off, demanding someone while shouting into her phone. "Get out here now." 10 minutes later, a man who appeared to have failed out of mall cop school got behind the wheel of a black SUV bearing a magnetic HOA security sticker. He puffed his chest and stated, "We've had reports of aggressive animals and illegal property modifications." "Oh, you mean bear?" Karen gestured at me as if she were launching an airstrike. I stated that he is registered, trained, and resides here. As for the modifications, everything you see is legal. However, your friend broke into my house, which is illegal. By the way, the phony police officer blinked and said, "You attacked her." I laughed so hard that I almost fell, even though I wasn't present and my camera footage shows otherwise. I wanted to see her roll in my pantry like a toddler in a bounce house. He hesitated and Karen hissed, "Don't listen to him. He is a manipulator." Bear groaned. "He is above my pay grade." "You're not leaving me here with them," Karen yelled. He drove away, leaving Karen standing by herself on my gravel driveway, her hair in full scarecrow mode, mud on her knees, shouting into the wind as if it owed her something. "You'll regret this. You think this is over?" she said. I collected myself, opened a cooler, got a soda, and sat against the fence. "No, Karen, you should have considered this. This isn't suburbia. This is my property," and she stalked back toward my front porch as if she had unresolved business. However, Bear was there this time, sitting like a furry bouncer, and she froze and shook before running again and tripping over the same fucking mat from earlier. God bless technology. My sprinklers kicked on full pressure straight in her face. This time, and as she thrashed around my front yard like a wet cat, my phone buzzed. "The sheriff's department received your email, and the deputy stated that the footage was crystal clear and asked us to press charges for trespassing, breaking, and entering." Yes, I did say that, and to bring a towel. A squad car pulled up 15 minutes later, and Karen tried to play victim. As soon as they left, he locked me in and put his dog on me. I was attempting to defend the neighborhood, and the deputy didn't even blink. "Ma'am, you entered a private residence without authorization, and you were on camera the whole time. The dog didn't touch you. The only thing that attacked you was a can of baked beans." Karen's face fell to the ground more forcefully than her broken heels, and she turned to me. "You're evil. You've manipulated everything, Karen." As the officers detained her, she yelled, "This isn't over. I know people." I added, holding up the flash drive, "You did this to yourself. The HOA doesn't run this ranch. The only code out here is don't cross me." The door slammed. Peace returned to my land, my rules, and one less Karen sniffing around like a truffle. Pig on HOA steroids. At the end, please like and subscribe for more HOA showdowns like this. One deputy laughed, "You should have known better than to mess with a rancher and his dog." They stuffed her in the back seat while Bear gave her a final bark goodbye.